I'm recording now. I will throw it up on our Canvas page as well. So just in the interests of GDPR, you are now being recorded, so just keep that in mind. So we'll put the session up onto Canvas afterwards, and you'll be able to go back. But I'm kind of hoping we'll be able to pace this training so that you can follow along, so that you can do the same things that I'm doing, and hopefully at the end of it, know how to create a basic Qualtrics survey. It is relatively straightforward. Qualtrics is quite intuitive, and I'm going to take you through the whole process. So from building your survey up to actually distributing it on Sonar. Now, I haven't got a video feed because I'm on a computer without a webcam. Pretty much all the webcams were sold out because of COVID, but I'm mainly going to be sharing my screen anyway. So I'm just going to pop that on there now. And I'm going to show you. This might look a little bit strange. It's got everything on there. So Steph, the other technician, is in the chat to answer questions. Because of the number of people that are in this, we won't really be able to deal with individual queries as we go along. And like I say, I am now sharing my screen, so I'm not going to be able to actually see the chat. As I said before, it's useful for you to have these 3 tabs for this training. Okay, just gonna open this up on a different computer so that I can see the chat as well. So just bear with me 1 second. I should be able to see any sort of issues that if you're having. I'm kind of hoping that you can all see my screen here, and you can see that at the moment I'm logged into Canvas. The other tabs that are important for this is Qualtrics and also Sonar. Now, if you don't have any of these accounts, that is okay. You can go back over this at a later date, and we can create you some accounts. Just opening the chat for this is on a different computer so that I can see what's going on there. So I'll start from the beginning. Qualtrics is survey software. It is not really designed for things like experiments. So say, for example, you wanted to do a face recognition experiment or a memory experiment or something like an IAT or something along those lines, you would be better off using Gorilla. There are some things that Qualtrics can do that are kind of pseudo-experimental, but really it's designed for surveys and psychometrics. You can combine the two if you need to, so you can combine Qualtrics with Gorilla. We also have a platform called LabVanced, and I think LabVanced is it's kind of more designed for really where timing is really important, real specific cognitive experiments. I think for most of your research, it will be either Qualtrics or Gorilla. Both of them are really, really straightforward to use. I've got Gorilla training this afternoon if you need to learn how to do that. So the first thing I want you to do is, if you go to your web browser and you go to Canvas and you scroll down, you should be able to see our Canvas page. If you don't have access to our Canvas page, then if you pop us an email, then we can add you to that. You may have already had a look at our Canvas page, but there is something on there that's really going to help you with Qualtrics. On the actual top, it will take you to our resources. Now, Steph has made a study template, and this study template you can upload to Qualtrics, and it will give you a basic overview of you know, the structure of a survey within psychology. You've also got various instruction pages and things like that, but for now I just want you to try and download this study. So if you just click on the Qualtrics study template, and then this link here, I'm just going to save it to the desktop, and that should download there. That's a really good starting point. Okay, and Steph's done a super job on it, because she's actually put instructions in there with each of the questions in each of the sections of what you should include. Now I'm going to show you how to upload that, and we're going to have that as a demo. We're going to have a quick look at that, but then we're kind of going to go through the process of recreating this survey so that you've got some experience of actually building a survey. So the next thing you need to do is, once you've downloaded this survey, if you just go to your Qualtrics tab, and the link, sometimes I find Qualtrics a little bit of a pain in the bum to find where to log in. But if you go to Google and just tap in Qualtrics login, it will be the top hit there. Sometimes if you just search for Qualtrics, for some reason, like the login page, you get taken to a sales page. I do apologise, my dog is making some strange noises. What's the problem? Quiet. Okay, so if you click on the login and then just fill in your username at the top and your password. Your username is going to be your email. Okay. Don't worry too much if you can't download the template. We will go through building essentially this template. If it says access denied, that is quite simply because you haven't actually been added to that Canvas page. It's a Canvas page that we manually have to enroll you on. So if for any reason we haven't had your details across, then we may not have added you, but we can add you. And like I say, don't worry too much about uploading the template. You can always do that at a later date. I've got a really old dog. He's nearly 18. He's a big old boy. He's just had his breakfast, and now he's kind of he's looking and shouting at me. He's sat on the sofa shouting at me. So like I say, if you can't download the template, okay, Rachel, you don't want to be opening this file, just downloading it. So don't try and open this file. You just want to download it to the desktop. Okay. In terms of if you can't log into Canvas, or you, bear me 1 second, sorry. Apologies for that. I was just getting him a drink. Okay, so don't sign up to Qualtrics. If you don't have a Qualtrics account, you are just going to have to watch this. Okay, we need to create you Qualtrics accounts. So if you sign up to a Qualtrics account, then you won't be able to download your data, and we won't be able to create you an ARU account because you'll already have one. Excuse me. So if you have any trouble signing into Qualtrics, just basically watch what we're doing. Okay. Sorry, my dog is just crying at the moment. Just bear me 1 second. Okay, so Steph is currently adding people to the canvas. But yeah, don't worry about it at the moment. Bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to have to just quickly deal with Jake, my dog. I'm really sorry. If you don't have access to Qualtrics, if you can just let us know your username, as in your email address. So like mine is kw40 at aru.ac.uk. If you could just let us know that in your chat, then we can probably get some Qualtrics accounts made for you. Just give me 5 minutes. Sorry about that. He's really old, and he wanted to get up on the sofa, so we just shouted up and put him on the sofa. So hopefully now he's completely settled. Okay, so don't worry too much if you have issues of accessing things. You can always come back to this video at some point and go along with the video, and you know, sort of use the template at a later date. If you are having issues with access to any of these systems, then your time is better spent just paying attention to the actual video and training. So I'm going to sign into Qualtrics. When you first sign into Qualtrics, you will be given some terms and conditions. If you just access them, accept them, I mean, you can read through them. It basically says that you agree not to use this software to for bad purposes, and it is their GDPR agreements. Qualtrics is GDPR certified and secure, so you don't really have to worry too much about that. Okay. Once you log in, you'll notice you probably won't have any surveys down here. Obviously, I've got quite a few using this for quite a long time. But when you do have surveys, they will be listed in the center down here. And any folders that you have will also be listed down there with the number of surveys in each of them. It's highly recommended that you do put things in folders and you organize things and keep things in the right place. Just if you end up doing a lot of research, let's say if you go on to do like a master's or a PhD or something along those lines, you could end up with quite a few surveys. So for the purposes of this training, we're going to add a new folder. So if you are logged into Qualtrics, okay. So Lauren, your screenshot there is of a yeah, because you've got no surveys or any okay. Lauren, did you create an account, or did you ask Lauren you ask for an account? I think is the question regarding that. Yeah, so we have to create you an ARU account, otherwise you're going to be on a demo. Okay, if you're on a demo, you're not going to be able to download any kind of data. So I would just so when we asked you to sign up, we did ask you to request Qualtrics accounts. I think we've made accounts for everyone who requested them. So if you haven't sent an email before to psychology, watch this and basically go through the recording afterwards. We have to manually create you accounts. We can only do that on request. And like I say, if you haven't already requested an account as per the email, you will have to give us time to create these accounts. Okay, Steph is currently adding and creating accounts for people, but we have to do it manually, so it will take some time. Okay, so if you don't have an account, just watch what I'm doing, and you will need to basically go back through this training at a later point. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new folder. Okay, and we're going to call this demo surveys. So create a new folder and call this demo surveys. Okay, again, Francesca, is that an ARU account, or is that an account you created yourself? Okay, if you've got, if you just look in the chat, guys, if you've just logged in, the chances are that you haven't got anything listed, so you are going to just end up with something like the picture that Francesca has shared. So because you haven't got any projects, you're not going to be able to create a new folder because you don't have any projects. So for everyone who is looking at something that looks like a screenshot of that Francesca has selected, let's just select create new project. Okay, let's just select create new project, and you should be looking at something like this. Okay. As everyone clicked create new project, and okay, so you shouldn't use your old Nottingham Uni Qualtrics account because we have no power to help you administrate that account. If you have any issues with your surveys, we can't help you. We don't have admin rights for that, so you should get an ARU account. For the purposes of this, if that's the only access to Qualtrics you've got, you could probably work through this training using that, but like I say, we won't be able to actually help you with that account. Okay, so hopefully everyone is looking at something that looks like what I've got shared on my screen. So if you could just click survey, we're going to create a brand new survey. So if you click that, you should be taken to something that looks a little bit like this. Now, we're actually going to import a survey. So if you go and click from a file, because the first thing we're going to do is import our template. Okay, so click from a file and then go to choose file. What you're going to need to do now is navigate to wherever you downloaded that example file from. So I downloaded it to my desktop. You can see this QSF file. It may be in your downloads, or like I say, I popped it on my desktop, so it's just there. So click Qualtrics survey template psychology technicians and click open. Okay, so you should have the file selected now, and just click get started. When you say it won't let me download it, what do you mean by that? Can you just give us a bit more details?
Yeah, hi. So I'm just trying to, right, I've clicked the link and you don't want to open it, you want to download it, but it just won't give me an option to download the file at all. All it says is copy file link.
Okay, what web browser are you using?
Microsoft Edge.
Can you use, do you have Chrome?
Yep. Shall I copy the link into Chrome?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can also do, if you right click on the link in Chrome, you can click save link as. Okay. So
no, it just says this page isn't working.
Okay, so you've copied this Canvas link.
Yeah.
Into the into Chrome.
Yeah.
And it looks like what I've got up on my screen.
Yeah.
And if you click Qualtrics survey template psychology technicians, what does it do? Does it?
Right. So it just well, it just comes up. Hold on a second. Let me try something else. Yeah, it tries to open it, but it can't.
Okay.
And then I can't download or copy it.
If you right click on it and click save link as, what happens then?
Let me try. Doesn't give me an option on it. Just
okay.
Doesn't.
So it kind of sounds like you guys have got some kind of security preventing you from downloading files that have a like an extension that it doesn't recognize. There isn't going to be a huge amount I can do about that right now. I can email it to you after the training. So okay, so yours has worked now, Lauren. So like I say, if that isn't an option for you, then it's going to be in your Chrome settings with regards to downloading files. Like I say, I can send you this as an email later, but I can't do that right now. Okay. So we'll just have to go on from there. If Steph gets a chance, she may be able to email you it, but like I say, I just need to sort of carry on with getting this uploaded. So we will be building a copy of this survey live, so you will have basically a copy of it, even if you can't download the actual survey itself. So for people who have managed to download it, and you've got your survey started, just click get started. and it should import the generic survey. Okay, so I just want to take a little bit of time to look through this and to look at the Qualtrics navigation. Up here in the top right hand corner, you will see global navigation options. Projects will take you back to your list of all projects, and now that you've got one project, the front page is probably changed from how it was before, and it will look more like mine. Contacts allow you to create panels and contact lists for email distributions. You're probably not going to use that, quite simply because your survey is going to be anonymous. Okay, your surveys are not going to use emails unless there's something very specific and you've applied for that via ethics. Okay, actions and library, again, you're probably not going to use. Admin you won't have because you are not an administrator. And help is probably one of the most useful tabs, as the help on Qualtrics is pretty good. Okay. Click on there and find any kind of information. If you just type in your query, it should come back to you pretty quick. Sometimes using the help is quicker than using us. We do try and get back to you in 3 working days. I mean, I think we're pretty good at getting back to you in 3 working days on various questions. But some things, if it's a very small query, you probably can find the information in help. The other thing that I kind of want to draw your attention to, this is your little profile picture here, and we set all of your passwords to passwords. And we say to you, you need to change that as soon as possible. So this is where you can change your password in account settings. Okay. So let's just have a quick look at this Qualtrics survey, this template here. The first block is the instructions. Okay. Now, Steph's done an absolutely amazing job here of giving you instructions about how to use this actual template. In Qualtrics, things are organized into blocks and questions. So if we just scroll down to the next block, you can see block 1 is the information sheet. Okay. Block 2 is your consent form. Block 3 is any kind of scale or survey that you've got. Block 4 is demographics, and block 5 is the debrief sheet. You can have more blocks. How do you decide how many blocks to have? You need to keep questions that are similar in the same block. So let's say you've got 3 psychometrics and demographics. You want a block per psychometric test. Okay. It's really worth keeping all of that organized well, quite simply because if you're doing any kind of survey flow, or if you need help from us, if your blocks are named well, then it makes it a lot easier on for us to sort of deal with those kind of things. So whenever you want to create a question in Qualtrics, you have 2 options. Okay. I don't want you to add any questions to this particular survey. I just want to show you where the where we can add questions and remove questions. I want you to keep this survey pretty much how it is so that you can refer to it at a later point. So whenever you hover over a question, and these are all questions, okay, any bit of information just here is considered a question. It highlights it and your pointer turns to a hand. So you can just click on the question and you will see a menu appears to the right. Okay. Now this menu has all of the options that are associated with that question. And you can change the question, you can change the question type simply by clicking the down arrow here. When you hover over the question type, it will give you an example of what each of these questions looks like. You can add choices, graphics, etc., etc., to these questions. Now, the first few questions on your survey are just going to be blocks of text. So as you can see here, Steph has said, paste your information sheet here. This is known as a text or graphic type question. This has no response from the participants. Okay. For your information sheet, it is just going to be copied and pasted into a descriptive text question. Now, one of the things that we get asked a lot is that the your information sheet is too long for one question. Split it over two questions if that is the case. Okay, just copy half of it into one question and half of it into another question. The next section down here is a capture verification. That's really important if you are going to put your survey on things like social media, quite simply because you will get bots answering your survey in the hope that you are either paying or it's some kind of competition or something along those lines. And you tend to get web crawlers giving you junk responses. So a capture verification makes sure that the people that are answering your survey are actually people. The next section here is the consent form. Now, obviously, the consent form requires you to actually have a response. So this is the first type of question that actually has some kind of input from the users. And this is a multiple choice question. Moving down, we highly recommend that any kind of psychometric that you use that's based on a Likert scale is done in a matrix table. Sometimes people create multiple choice questions. It's not the best way of doing it. Your data when you download it afterwards will be much more organized if you use a matrix table. And then finally at the bottom, we've got demographics. A lot of these will either be text entry questions. So for example, age, we recommend you have a text entry with numerical only validation. And some of these, for example, gender, maybe multiple choice questions, and you may want to add some kind of text entry onto that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to build an example questionnaire together step by step. So if you haven't been able to download and upload the example form, don't worry too much because you can always go back and do that at a later date. We're actually going to build something right now that it kind of looks like this. We're going to make up our scale. It's going to be just a silly little scale, but we're going to go through the process of creating and building a survey from scratch. So if you click on projects just here, it should take you back to something. And now that you've got a project, if you've managed to upload the template, you should have that listed on your front page. If you didn't manage to upload it for whatever reason, don't worry too much. We all want to create a new project. So just click on create a new project. So this time we are going to create a project from a blank Qualtrics survey. So just go to survey, click on it, and make sure blank project is selected. And just call this example 1. Okay, so just going to start from fresh, and we're going to build our blocks. We're going to get it to the point where we can pretend to distribute it, and hopefully that will give you some sort of overview on how all this works. So once you've got the project name in there, start from a blank project, click Get Started. Qualtrics saves as you go along. You do need an active internet connection in order to save your survey as you proceed through the process. So make sure you do have an active internet connection. You can't build these surveys really offline using this interface. You have to be online. Okay. So we have one block already built, and we're going to call that, we're going to rename this block for our participant information sheet. So just where it says default question block, click on that and it should highlight it. Most elements of text in Qualtrics, you just hover over the top of it and click on it, and then you can edit it. So we'll call this PIS, okay, participant information sheet. Now on this questionnaire, we've only got one block, so we need to add some more blocks. So we'll add just down here, there's an option to add block. You can also add a block or delete blocks by using this menu up here that says block options. So you can add a block below, you can copy the blocks, and you can delete them using this menu. If you're just adding them quickly, you can just use this bit here. So click add block, and then for this one here, just click it and type consent form. The next block we're going to add, we are going to add, now whether you do demographics first or whether you do your survey first, that's really going to be a discussion with you and your supervisor. A lot of supervisors, you know, they like to do the actual survey first so that your attention is there. I'm running a survey at the moment where I do demographics first, because it's really important that if they are of a certain demographic, I exclude them from the study. So I don't want to collect their data. So the order of which you construct your survey should be in conversation with your supervisor. So I'm just going to call this psychometric. I'm not actually going to use a real psychometric. I'm just going to make something up, something silly up. The next block we need to add, just here where it says add block, if you click there, we're just going to call that demographics. And this is where we're going to ask information about the person. It's really important to keep in mind that you should only be adding questions to your survey that you have had approved by ethics. Don't add anything in that you haven't gone through the ethics process of clarifying. Don't add a cheeky little question about something you haven't actually sort of asked. Personal information is a big no-no unless you've got ethical approval. So don't you know, just randomly add things. If you do need to amend your ethics, if there's something that you and your supervisor have discussed, it's pretty straightforward just to put in a quick ethics amendment if you do want to get some additional data for whatever reason. Finally, the last block, if you just click here, and we'll call this one debrief. This is where we just thank our participants, give them like contact information, bits and pieces like that, so they can get a hold of you. So we've now got our block structure of a very, very basic survey. Okay, you may have things that are more complex. You may want to randomly present conditions to people based upon an answer beforehand. All of those things are possible with Qualtrics. You may, one of the things we get a lot of is people like to show vignettes to like 20 people and then ask them a set of questions, or 20, and a different vignette to different 20 people. We can help you with that. We may put on some more advanced training if we get enough requests for that kind of stuff. Probably not going to have time to do it here, but yeah, we'll work through as much as we can. So this first question, you see in this block, it has automatically added a question, and if you just click on this question, you'll see it says multiple choice. Now the participant information, you're not going to believe this, but my kitten's now actually turned up as well and is playing with my microphone. I mean, seriously, it's like a zoo here. Okay, so yeah, this one is set to a multiple choice question, and we actually just want just text, just a text based question. So if you go up to where it says change question type and hit down and click descriptive text, this will remove the question options. I've got a big fluffy kitten who I rescued over lockdown, who is ridiculously cute, and I cannot understand why he was rejected. He's just big and fluffy and black, and he's very, very cute. He's playing with some fluff now. So yeah, if you change it to text or graphic, and there where it says click to write on the question text, just click on there. You'll see some options appear at the top. Now, we want to add in file downloads. One of the things that you have to give your participant the option to do is download all of the files that you have submitted basically to ethics, so your participant information and stuff like that. So if you click on Rich Content Editor, you should see a screen like this. Now, the first time you open this, it may look like this, where you don't have all of the options. So if you just go along to where it says more and click on that, you'll see a lot more options open up. And it kind of looks like a little word processor, and that's pretty much how it works. So where it says click to write the text, if you just highlight that and press delete and type something along the lines of, this is where you should copy and paste the text of your PIS sheet, full stop. Don't worry too much about your spelling or anything like that. This is just a little note to yourself, and Steph has put far more complex notes in the download on the template that you can download and import into Qualtrics. So this is more about the experience of creating this. Another little note to yourself, don't forget to include a file download for PPIS. Okay, and the way that we can add a file is by going to this little file up in the corner, and if you just hover over it, it will say insert file. So if you just click on that, it will take you to your library. Yeah, that's pretty much what's going on at the moment. He likes to climb up on my computer and then jump in front of the screen. He likes watching telly. So yeah, you won't have any files in there because unless you've got a an actual Qualtrics account that you've used before. So just go to upload a new file, and you just select choose a file, and you select a random file to upload if you want, but this is pretty self-explanatory. This is how you upload files. I don't think I've got any actual Word files. I might have one in here. No. Oh, look, I've got a random Excel file from my PhD. So I'm just going to randomly select this file to upload. It'll ask you some questions about it. Do you want to upload it? Click save. And then it will insert a link into your text file that your participants can download. To get out of this editing section, just click off the question, and that is your first question in Qualtrics. Okay, now we want to add a captcha to the bottom of this to make sure our participants are actually participants. So where it says create a new question, just press this down arrow here and go to captcha verification. It's right at the bottom, just there. And if you click, it will add a little captcha. Click to write the question text. We can just click there and type in, please complete the captcha. Think along those lines. You know, prove you're not a robot. Yeah, this is where those annoying things come from. Yeah, absolutely. The first few surveys that I ran without captcha verification, within a couple of days, I had like 300 responses. I was really, really chuffed with myself. And then when I looked at it, it was just all crap. It was just rubbish that, you know, random bots or people had filled in and stuff like that. So if you are sharing anything on like social media, on your Facebook feed or anything like that, or on Instagram, do make sure you put captcha in there. And also, if you do plan on sharing your surveys on social media, make sure you've put that in your ethics application, that you are gonna be sharing it on those platforms as well, just so that you can make sure you've actually you're covered on all bases. Think of ethics as just covering yourself for every eventuality. So we're going to scroll down now to the next block, which is the consent form. And we're going to add a multiple choice question on this one. So just press this little down arrow here and go to multiple choice. Okay. Element of this is pretty much the same as above. So if you just click on there, you can make it all fancy with bold and stuff like that. So if you just click on rich content editor, and we're going to write a little note to ourselves. So this is where you paste your consent form. Now, we don't actually give people the option of clicking no, I don't consent. What we ask people to do is, if they do not consent, to close the web browser. Okay. Now, the reason for this, if you, for example, put no, I don't consent, and then you send people to the end of the survey, if you're using something like Sonar, they can sometimes still get the credits, okay? And it counts as a submission. So generally what we say, there are ways to get around that, but it's overly complex. So the easiest way to deal with consent is just tell people if they do not consent, then they should close the web browser. Okay. And you'll just get an incomplete response then that you can delete, and you can tell that it's not been finished, and it makes life a lot easier. Also, don't forget to include a downloadable copy of your consent form. In all the years that I've been doing this, it's very, very rare that people actually download these forms, but you must make them available. And if the first years and second years are smart, they will download your forms that you've managed to get through ethics, so they can use, so you know they've got an example of you know what to do when they come to do their studies. They probably won't, but it is a good idea. So, right. So because we're asking people to close the web browser if they consent, if they don't consent, we only want one choice here. So we're just gonna take this down to one choice, and that choice, you just need to click on there and type yes, I do consent. Steph, I'm just calling you out now. What's the situation with memorable numbers and PIN numbers? Are we giving people memorable numbers and PIN numbers to withdraw? Sorry, I'm just...
Yeah, no problem. So can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. I'm sure everyone else can. So
yeah, so the last thing I was told is that you can include a memorable code question if you want participants to be able to withdraw.
Yep.
But
Cool.
but depending on what your supervisor says, depends on whether they can withdraw or not. So some supervisors are saying once the participant has submitted, then they can't withdraw.
Okay.
In which case you don't need a question to be able to do that. So ask your supervisor really whether your participants should be able to withdraw after they've submitted.
Okay, so that's brilliant advice. So I will show you right now how to include a question to identify your anonymous participants should they wish to withdraw. But as Steph says, this is at a supervisor's discretion. So you need to have a conversation with your supervisor and follow their advice regarding whether you should include this question. So obviously all your participants are anonymous, and if they wish to withdraw at a later date, you're not going to be able to identify them. So we sometimes ask people to include a memorable number and name combination that they enter themselves, so that if they do wish to withdraw at a later date, they can give you that number name combination. You can ask for anything, so it could be you ask them to include a memorable date and the name of a pet, or something along those lines. That's likely to be a unique combination to them. It could just be a memorable word or something along those lines. But like I say, do check with your supervisor what their position is with regards to that. So if you do need to include a memorable word number combination type thing, that is going to be a text entry question. So just click here where there's a little plus, and it will add a new question below. It automatically adds a multiple choice question. So we then want to go and change that text entry question. So just click there. And it is as simple as asking them, you know, what they want to include. So please, in case you wish to withdraw your data at a later date, please include a memorable number and name combination. And then you can give them examples, so i.e. 28, 12, 80, Jake. You know, something along those lines. It's best to ask for a combination of a name and a number just so it's completely unique to that person. Then it's up to them to remember it, okay? It's not up to you to remember it. If they cannot tell you that, then, you know, it's going to be very difficult for them to withdraw. Okay, so that's pretty much the first section. So let's go down to creating some kind of survey or question that is like on a Likert scale, you know, the strongly agrees, you know, big 5 questionnaires, those kind of things. So we're going to create this on a matrix table. So where the little arrow is, just there, just hit down there and select matrix table. Okay. This section up here, most psychometrics come with a set of instructions. Include those in that section. So I've typed typing what I'm saying. That's ridiculous. Include the survey instructions here. Excuse me. And largely you're probably going to copy and paste. Now, do be careful with some psychometrics. Some psychometrics are copyrighted and you cannot put them on the internet like this. Most of the ones on psych tests are pretty much okay, that you can actually replicate them on there. If in doubt, ask your supervisor. If supervisors are in doubt, then they can ask us. But basically anything we have to pay for, it's likely that you cannot just put it on Qualtrics. Now, on our Canvas page here, if I can find it, we do have a link to psych tests, I believe, if it's still up there. Just trying to find it now. I think, there we go. So can I access departmental psych tests? We've hot linked it on our Canvas page, a link to psych tests. Psych tests contains a psychometric tests that you can access for free via the library. Like I say, this is on the page, can I access departmental psychometric tests? We kind of recommend you go to psych tests first, followed by Google, because a lot of tests are available. And if you cannot find your test on either of those, then send us an email and we may be able to help you, but you will need the full reference for the psychometric test. Before you use any psychometric test, make sure it is the right test that you actually need by checking that with your supervisor, okay? Okay. So going back to here, we're actually just going to make up a survey. Steph is actually having to just run off to another meeting, so some of the queries in the chat at the I'll to at the end and try and clear up if we've got any. So just be aware. She's created pretty much all of the accounts as much as humanly possible that have been requested. So, you know, after this training, you can check that you've actually got access. So going back to this psychometric, all of these statements here, you can just click and write, and all of the scale points at the top, you can also just click on and write. So I'm going to actually increase the number of scale points. And you do that by going over here where it says scale points, and I'm just going to put that up to 5. Just here, I'm going to change this to strongly disagree. Now, one of the things that Qualtrics does when it thinks it recognizes a scale, it will try and fill in the rest for you. Sometimes that can be useful and sometimes that's not useful. As you can see, for me on this one, it's increased my scale points to 7, which is kind of a little bit annoying. So I'm just going to take that back down to 5. And we'll stick with what Qualtrics has popped in there for me. Like I say, sometimes it can be a bit annoying because obviously your scale is dictated by whatever scale you're using, but for the purposes of this today, we'll just go with this. The number of statements can be increased by clicking here, so we'll just add this up to 5, and we are just going to make up some ridiculous statements. So the first one, I'm just going to put I like ice cream, because I do. For the next one, I do not like carrots. I actually do like carrots. But, you know, kittens are cute. Hot weather is my favorite weather. So see, this is just absolute rubbish. And I like fast cars. Okay, obviously you won't be making up any kind of surveys like that yourself. Hopefully, you'll have some decent content to actually put in there, but the premise is the same. So then you've got a matrix table where all of your results will essentially be combined into the same section when you actually download your results. There are some options over here to that you can add to this. So you can change the matrix type. So I'm just going to click more here. You can change it to things like text entry or bipolar, for example, where you would have I like ice cream, I do not like ice cream. I'm going to change it back to like it. You can play around with those as much as you like on this survey, just to see what they do. You can also add labels. So for example, let's say instead of strongly agree, somewhat agree, it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You might want to add a couple of labels to show what that scale represents. If you were using like a 1 to 5 scale. Okay. Some of the options down here are quite useful if you've got quite long surveys, if you've got quite long matrix tables. There's also some interesting things here. Some things you may want multiple answers, as in people can put more than one answer along there. Most psychometrics don't use that kind of thing, but you know, you might want it. You know, if you, let's say up there it sort of said what kind of vehicle do you have, and you had bicycle, car, motorbike, etc. You can get them to tick multiple. Transpose table will flip the table around, so you've got your statements across the top, etc. Position text above. If you've got a particularly long survey, that kind of breaks it up a little bit. You know, it's easier to view across. I like to repeat the headers on long ones. You can also select repeat them on all, so it makes it really easy for the participant, and adding white space just breaks it up a bit. So you've got stylistic options. Those options are really up to you. We will come back to forced responses and requesting responses once we've finished building the questionnaire. But that is essentially how you'll set up your survey there. I'm just going to take that off there, so it just is a basic matrix table. So moving on to demographics, okay, we'll also come back to scoring this, because Qualtrics can automatically score surveys, which is quite useful because it means you don't have to sit and score each survey. So demographics are fairly straightforward. The first question that we'll is a classic question. Now, you should only ask demographics for information that you actually need. Don't ask extra questions if you're not actually going to use that in your analysis. So to give you an example here, just added a new question, a new multiple choice question, and we're going to call this gender. So Qualtrics identifies gender, and it gives the options of male and female. We're going to add a third option to allow people to self-identify. So just add another third option by clicking the plus over there and then type in other. And if you just click on the actual word and press the down button here, you can select allow text entry. And that just allows people to enter, you know, not just for gender, but any kind of, you know, where you've given people options and you want them to, if there's an other option that you haven't included, you can let them self-state or self-identify. The next one we're going to add is age, because that's quite a common one. I hugely do not recommend use age categories. Take people's actual age, because you can always categorize their age at a later date. So just add yourself another question by clicking the plus down there, and then click this text here where it says click to write the question text and type age. Now you're going to need to change this from multiple choice to text entry. So just click on text entry. Now we want people only to include numbers. It's amazing what people enter when you give them an age option. They'll write it in words, they'll write it in months, all sorts of random things. But if we just want age in years, we want to add some kind of validation so that they can only enter numbers. So make sure this question is selected, and then just go along to where it says content validation and click the button, and then scroll down to where it says number and click that. My display's gone a little bit funny there, so I'm just going to click off that question and then click back on that question so that it sorts itself out. It'll ask you for the minimum, and you're going to want to put in the 18. Maximum, I'm just going to put 150. That should cover every single age. Maximum decimals, 0. We don't want decimals for age. And basically what that will do is if someone tries to put anything other than a number, it will come up with an error. Okay, so you've got some validation in there. The other types of demographics that you can include are largely covered by multiple choice and text entry. So I'll leave that there. Things like handedness, height, etc., etc. You can use the same sort of approach, really. You can also, in these validation, include things like text only, dates. You can also change it to be a UK date as opposed to an American style date. So they'll only be allowed to put in dates. Pretty much anything you want. You can also build custom validation so that they can only enter in certain sort of responses. So the last thing we're going to do is add a debrief, and your debrief is the same as your participant information. So if we just click the down button here, we're just going to add a descriptive text question and just write a little note to yourself. Paste in your debrief, and don't forget to add a downloadable file. So again, with the debrief, you want to add in your downloadable file. Now, what we've got here is a very basic questionnaire. Obviously, it's a load of the content is a load of rubbish, but the theory's pretty good. So what we need to do now is have a look at what it actually looks like. So if you click on preview, it will give you a preview of this survey in a different tab. Okay, so if you don't have mobile view on, make sure you click that on, because if you're going to let people answer your survey on mobile, you need to make sure it looks right. The other thing that's really useful is if you go to tools at the top here, you can click ignore validation. Okay, that basically means you don't have to fill in any of the questions, you don't have to fill in the capture and stuff. You can just click through your survey. So you can just press this button here and go through the whole survey and make sure it kind of looks like you want it to look. Go to the end, and hopefully it'll say, we thank you for your time. Your response has been recorded. So Qualtrics will record this survey response essentially as a preview, but it's useful because then I can show you what data actually looks like. Once you've gone through that, you can always start the survey if you've got multiple routes, multiple options and different kind of videos or scenarios that show to different people to check they all work. You can just close this tab. Now, I'm reasonably happy with that survey, but there are some little bits and pieces that I want to improve on there. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at validation options. There are two validation options: force response and request response. You can only use force response on the consent form. Every other question, you must use request response. And this is because you can't force people to answer all of your questions. I get it may make your survey a bit useless if they miss bits and pieces out, but that's just life. You know, you kind of, you can prod people and say, hey, did you mean to miss that question out? But if there's a question on your survey they really don't want to answer, you shouldn't necessarily force them to. So click on your consent form just here and select force response. That means they cannot go any further in the survey without saying either yes, I consent, or closing the web browser. By default, the capture is forced response. They have to enter the capture before they can continue. Everything else we are going to select as a request response. So this here, you just click on it and select the down arrow and click request response. That means if they fail to complete one of the questions, a pop-up will show and Qualtrics will say, are you sure? And they'll either say, yeah, I'm sure, or, oh, it was an accident, I didn't mean to do that. So go down to your survey, your psychometric, and select request response. Your gender question, change that to request response. Your age in years, request response. And our last one doesn't have any kind of response, so we're not going to put a validation on that. Just going back to your psychometric, we're going to do a little bit of work on this. So one of the things you're going to come across is people online. Some people are really cool and they take the time to do your survey, and they pay attention and they read the questions really well. Some people might be clicking through really, really quickly in order to get the Sona credits. So they just want Sona credits and not taking their time. So you need called attention checks. I normally include one attention check per 20 questions. Don't go too crazy. And an attention check is a question which is kind of almost disguised as a question, but it actually gives an instruction on what to do. So we're going to add one to this. So if you just click on this question and add another statement where it says click to write statement 6, click on that and type the sky is blue, please select somewhat agree. Okay, and this is known as an attention check, like I say, and for online surveys it's kind of important. If someone isn't reading your questions, they're not going to read the question to the end, and they may well click the, you know, they won't select somewhat agree. It's kind of a bizarre thing to do, I know, to actually instruct people to select an option, but like I say, if they are reading the questions properly, this will help you identify if someone isn't actually answering the question properly, and you kind of want to hide it in your actual survey. So where the statement is, just right click on there and you can move it up a few and pop it in the middle. The other thing that I was saying that Qualtrics can do is it can do automatic scoring. So a lot of you will have, let's say, like the big 5 personality, psychometric, or something along those lines. You're going to have scoring. It's going to tell you to add up a certain number of questions, you know, you get a score for a dimension of personality or something like that. Qualtrics can basically do that automatically. So if you scroll up to the top and you go to tools just here, and you go down to this option here that says scoring, you click on there, it will take you to the scoring page, and this is slightly different from your actual survey editing. The first thing you need to do is create a category for every survey and every dimension in that survey. So if you have got a survey that has 3 dimensions, you want to like call it survey 1 dimension 1, survey 1 dimension 2, survey 1 dimension 3, etc. Make sure you take the time to name everything correctly. So to create scoring categories, if you don't do this, it will just add all the scores up together, and you'll just end up with like a random score where it's added everything up together. You have to tell it which questions are part of what scale, etc. So where it says category and the down arrow, if you just go to manage categories, I'm just going to delete this one. It automatically creates a score category where it adds everything up together. That's not that useful. We'll add a new category and we'll call this just dimension 1. I'll add another category called dimension 2 and another one called dimension 3. Okay. And like I say, you want to have, you want to make sure you name it based upon your survey and the different scoring dimensions. And all of those instructions should be with your psychometric. Do not use a psychometric unless you know how to score it, that it's got scoring instructions with it. If you use a psychometric and you have no idea how to score it and you collect all your data, and you haven't got any kind of scoring instructions, and then you can't get hold of them. It's happened once before. Someone used a survey, a psychometric from the 60s. We just couldn't get hold of the scoring information, and essentially all their data had to be had to redo their surveys. So make sure you've got everything in place, that you know how to score it, you've got those instructions with you, etc. at the start. You can kind of ignore the next bits unless you want to show your participants the scores. Mostly you're not going to want to do that, so don't worry too much. And then once you've got your scoring categories, click Save. Okay. You can then select them based upon this drop-down menu here. And what you then add as score will be included, and it will sum, it will add up all of the scores in that category. So select your first scoring category and then just scroll down to here. I like ice cream. We'll give that a 1, give that a 2, give that a 3, give that a 4, give that a 5. We'll miss out the next one, and we will select kittens are cute, and we'll reverse score this one. So we can hit 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so only these two questions will be included in dimension 1. If we then select dimension 2, scroll down, you'll see it's all gone blank. You can add mass scoring. So if we just press this down arrow here, score, I'm going to set all of these scores to 1, all of these scores to 2, all of these scores to 3, all of them to 4, and all of them. In dimension scores way, and they will all be added together. And then we'll select dimension 3. And you can also automatically score based on the statement. So I like fast cars. If you press this down arrow here, score ascending. We'll score that descending, and we'll add the carrot one. Okay. Now, scoring is applied at the point of download. So you can build your survey and then you can change the scoring at a later date. So you can apply all of this at the point of data download. That also means, say you mess up the scoring for whatever reason and you've collected all your data, because it calculates it when you download your data, you can change your scoring as much as you want, and then it will just be applied to the data at a later point. So don't freak out if you know, you're like, oh, I'm not 100% certain if my scoring is correct. So now we've got our scoring in place and pretty much everything else is ready to go. You can click back to editor, and we've pretty much got our complete survey. So what we're going to do now is we are going to publish it. Whenever you make changes, you have to publish your survey again. So we're going to click publish there. You can largely ignore this. This expert review seems to be more based for marketing type surveys. Your questionnaire is your questionnaire and is been agreed with your supervisor. So don't really worry too much about this. Just go straight to publish. It will publish it and it will give you an anonymous link, a URL, okay? And this is the URL that you can use in things like Sona and on Facebook and things like that. But don't worry too much about that at the moment. So we'll close that. We've got a survey that's published and that's all good. Now, once you have completely finished your survey, my recommendation to you is that you then copy it for each of your channels that you wish to distribute it. So you should have a Sona copy and you should have a social media copy. Now, the reason why you should do this is because you are going to add some code in your Sona version so that it will automatically credit people for doing your survey. And if you share the same survey with your Facebook people, they'll probably go onto Facebook, they'll do your survey, and then they'll get redirected to Sona, and we'll get loads of emails from random people who we don't know going, what's Sona? So once you have completely finished your survey and you're completely happy with it and you've checked it with your supervisor, the best thing to do then is to copy it. So I'm going to show you now how to share your survey with your supervisor, okay, to collaborate the survey. Then we're going to make a copy, and we're going to have one copy for Sona, and we're going to have one copy for like social media, for your mates, for your family, that kind of thing. And then I'm going to quickly run through how to put that up on Sona. Now, you probably won't be able to create a study on Sona. You'll just have to watch that element. You may already have a researcher account on Sona. I'm not 100% certain, but you don't want us to approve all of your example studies. So I will make it really clear where, you don't have to sort of do the same thing as us, well, as me. I'm just giving you an example. So what you want to do now is go back to your project list. So if you click on projects, it's going to take you to this page, and you've got just there your example survey. Okay. So in order to share this with your supervisor, you have to do something called collaborate. Don't send them the URL. Send them invite them to collaborate on the survey, and then they can look at the data behind it and make sure everything is correct. So just go along to where these three little dots are. Again, don't actually collaborate this survey with your supervisor, because they're probably not gonna be interested in your training survey. You can write your own name in there. So I'm just going to type my own email address in there, caroline.webb@aru.ac.uk. Okay. And then you can click add, and it'll say share this project with Caroline Webb. Add a message. It's courteous to add a message, something along the lines of, this is my dissertation survey, would you mind checking over it with me? You don't need to do this with Psychology Tech because we can access any of your accounts because we're administrators, but you will need to do this with your supervisor. Once you've done that, click OK and click save, and they will be sent an email with a link so that they can access your survey. Once you have done that, this is where you can make your copies for distribution. So keep your base survey. Sorry, I didn't mean to click on that. Click on projects again. Keep one survey as like the master copy, and then go to these three little dots and click copy project. Give it a name that makes sense. So example 1, call this one Sona copy project. Okay. This is what you are gonna, this is the survey version that you are gonna share on Sona. And we're gonna also copy this one. So we'll copy this project and we'll just call this one social media. And copy project. Now, it's really, really important that you only do the copying process once you are completely happy with the survey. If there's anything you need to change, you are then going to need to change it on both of these surveys, okay? So this should be the very last thing you do once everything's been checked and you're happy with the surveys. Now, these surveys are not active. They're not live by default. You can make them live by going across here to the three little dots and click activate. And we'll activate the Sonar. Oh, sorry, again, I didn't mean to click on it. We'll activate the Sonar one by clicking on the three little dots and click activate. Okay, so for the social media one, it's pretty much ready to go. If you click on the three little dots here and go to distribute survey, which is just here, it will take you to the page where you can distribute your survey to the people who are going to answer it. Most of you are going to use the anonymous link, okay? And the anonymous link is just a web address, just a generic web address. You can just post that up on social media and be like, hey guys, can you answer my survey? Much appreciated, whatever. For posters, if you're going to put posters up anywhere, if you're going to put them around, if you are actually on site at ARU, you must get your posters approved by the student union. And you can only put them on certain billboards and information boards that the student union uses. If you put them randomly across site, they will just get taken down, okay? So please don't just blue tack posters to the back of like the toilets. People do that. They will get taken down and you may get moaned at as well. So, you know, try and avoid doing that. But you could use a QR code for posters around the university. You can also link your social media if you want to share it, you know, post to your wall. It doesn't have Instagram, which is kind of annoying. But Reddit, LinkedIn, things like that, you can add on there. Personal links and emails, you should only really be using those if you have submitted to ethics that you are going to use personal links, because if you use emails or personal links, it then makes the data identifiable. In some circumstances, I know there's some PhD students who do have permission to do that. This is also how we distribute your ethics forms, for example. You know, but most of you are going to use the anonymous link. You can just copy and paste that and pop it into a Facebook post or whatever, or, you know, send it to your mum or your dad or your friends, etc. So that's pretty much that process done. So let's go back to the Sonar version. So the Sonar version, if you just click on projects, we have to add some extra information to the Sonar version. We'll just click on it. It's not a huge amount of information, and Sonar's really, really nice in that it tells you how to do it. So I'm going to just take you through very, very quickly how to add your survey to the Sonar system. Now, just for those people who might be master's students or PhD students, Sonar is a participant pool. All of the students are added to this participant pool, and our undergraduates have to get 12 credits through 3 years in order to become a researcher. So it basically, you are going to share your study on Sonar. If you've got your 12 credits, you can request a researcher account, and then you can share your study to our current first and second years. If you haven't got 12 credits and you're an undergraduate student, there are still some studies available. We have taken away all the limits on online studies, so you can get all of your credits on online studies, so you can still get those credits. If you are a master's student or a PhD student, you can just request a researcher account because you aren't here as long before you actually have to do any kind of research. If you are a master's student or a PhD student and you don't have to get credits, it's still considered it's considered polite to do some surveys. Okay, people are likely to be looking for participants, and just if you can answer a few surveys, give them a couple of hours, it's really going to help someone's dissertation. So you don't have to do this, but I'm going to show you the process of adding a study to Sona. So I'm just going to click on the Sona tab, and I'm going to log in with my student account. Now, when you log in, you'll get two options. Do you want to log in as a participant or a researcher? If you've got 12 credits and you don't have the researcher option, just send us an email and we can add researcher to your account. Again, we have to do this manually, and because everyone gets 12 credits at different points, we can miss some people. It's totally cool. It won't take us long to add them. Just fire us an email. So I've got 12 credits. Can you add the researcher role to my account? So I'm going to click researcher, and you'll see I've got a study up at the moment. I'm sure some of you've done it, the road users survey. It's half a credit available if you do need some credits, so sign up. You want to go down to create new study. You just click there. Now, there is information on our canvas that takes you through it step by step. Okay, for most of you, you are going to select online external study. Okay, this is for websites like Qualtrics, SurveyMonkey, etc. Most of you are going to use an online external study. It is the same for Gorilla as well. Choose the online external study. Once you've set this, you can't change it, so it's important you select the right one. If any of you are doing lab-based research, which I don't think is going to be the case this year, then you may want to select standard study, or if you've got like a two-part study. Yeah, so Emily, if you've got 12 credits and you don't have the researcher option, you just need to email us, and we will add the researcher to your account. If you haven't got 12 credits, then just sign up to some surveys and spend a little time getting some surveys. If you've got any issues with getting 12 credits, we can assess it on a case-by-case basis. So just, again, fire us an email, okay? For the purposes of this training, you don't actually have to create a survey for this survey, quite simply just because it's an example survey. So I'm going to select online external study, and I'm going to select credit. Credits are 1 credit equals 1 hour. Half a credit equals half an hour. 0.25 credits equals 15 minutes. Okay, you can be reasonably generous. So if your survey takes, say, 25 minutes, then you can give half a credit. It's normally agreed within your ethics how much credits you will give. It needs to be reasonably fair. So you can't sort of give 10 credits for your 15-minute survey because you want everyone to do it, because we won't approve that. Okay. So just be mindful that 1 credit equals 1 hour. And it should be the average. So you can give it a little leeway. The way I recommend you find out how long your survey is, get a mate to do it, add 5 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to select credit, and I'm going to click continue. This information, a lot of it you can take from your ethics form. So study name, I'm just going to call this example 1. Brief abstract, this is an example study. Detailed description, lots of detail in here. Basically, you can copy and paste it from your participant information sheet, that kind of thing. Eligibility requirements. This is up to you. Do you need people with really good vision? Do you need left-handed people? Do you need people with driving licenses? Whatever your conditions are, you need to include that. The duration, put how long it's going to take. Be realistic. Don't overcook it, because we will check your surveys before we put them live on the survey. And if you've said to us, oh, it takes an hour, but in actual fact it takes 15 minutes, and we look at the survey, we will be talking to your supervisor and saying, this doesn't seem right. Preparation, if you need them to read anything in advance, then get them to do that there. Add yourself. You may want to add your supervisor as well. Please don't add SciTech, because then we end up with loads of emails. The SREP or FREP approval code is the school research ethics code. Now, when you submit your ethics and it goes through the approval process, at the end, you'll get a letter. It'll probably be emailed to you. It won't be like posted to you. And it will have an approval code on it. You need to copy and paste that approval code in there from the ethics letter. And then put the expiration. The expiration should be your hand-in date. Okay? So I'm just going to set this to the 1st of December. Okay? We can change this if for any reason you have an extension or something like that. We can change that at a later date. We approve the studies. A SONA approval is different to ethics approval. Okay, so once you've got your ethics approval, this is a different thing. All we're checking is that your study actually works. You've got the URL in there and it's the right URL. Click active study, click yes. And for most of you, you can just click add this study. Okay, there are some advanced settings here. Feel free to go through these and add them if you want. The one that we probably are going to add in this instance is our study URL. Okay. Now there is some slight complication. You have to do some bits to get Qualtrics to add to credit your participants automatically, but this detailed help here is really, really good. It takes you through a 3-step process. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and get the study URL from Qualtrics. Click on there and we just go to distributions and we'll get the anonymous link and we'll copy that like so, and we will paste it into this study URL like so. Now, what you then want to do is click the detailed help and it will open in another tab. Down and Qualtrics, and it will give you step-by-step instructions on how to make it so that Qualtrics will automatically credit your participants when they complete a survey. So the first bit, on your SONA Systems site, change the study URL so it includes $ID = survey code in the URL. So you just want to copy this bit here. So highlight it, right click and copy. And then go back to SONA and we're just going to paste it at the end of our URL. So just right click and paste. So I've just added this $ID = survey code. Okay, go back to the instructions. Having completed step 1, the study information on your SONA systems is now displays the URL Qualtrics redirect to a URL. Okay, So the next thing we need to do is embed the ID. So what you do is you go back to your Qualtrics and you go to your survey by clicking on survey, and you add an embedded data field. It doesn't, you know, I'm saying things like, you know, insert an embedded data field. Don't worry too much why, just follow the instructions. Okay, don't get all caught up in, oh, what's an embedded data field? It doesn't matter at this point. You just have to follow the instructions. We will check that you've done it right. Okay, go to survey flow, add new element, embedded data field, and just type in ID. And that's all you need to do. Okay, and then just need to save the flow, and that is step 2 done. Go back to your Qualtrics help and scroll down here. In Qualtrics, configure the survey options to redirect. So what we're going to do is we're going to include a link so that at the end of your survey it sends people back to Sona. But before we do that, we need to publish our survey with the ID, and we need to go back to Sona and scroll down and add the study. This will then take you to your study page. Now what we need to do is get this Qualtrics redirect link from our study page, like so, and copy it. So you highlight it and right click and go to copy, go back to Qualtrics and go to survey options and scroll down to where it says redirect to a full URL. Click there and paste your link. Now I get this seems, you know, really quite convoluted and complex. And click save. But we do have instructions available so that, you know, you don't have to remember this. Okay, you just need to go through the instructions. Once you've done that, and click publish, you will have now set up your study to automatically credit on Sona when someone does your survey. This will not be live until we have approved it, and you will need to send a request to us. So you just click this send request. Please approve my study. Send the request, and that will email us. And then what we'll do is we'll go onto your Sona other, and we'll make sure it's complete and that the credits and the timing are correct. We will then go to your Qualtrics survey and just make sure that you've got it set up so that it will work. We will not be checking content. That is up to your supervisor to do. We will just simply be checking that everything works and the crediting will work. If it's not going to work, we'll send you an email and say, unfortunately, you need to do this, or you need to go back and have a look at that. So if for any reason you forget a step, or you know, you haven't quite done it right, don't worry too much. We won't let you put a survey live on Sona until you've got that all set up. So the final thing really in this training in the last 10 minutes, and unfortunately I'm probably not going to have too much time to answer any questions, is how to download your data once you've got some. Okay, so if you go back to Qualtrics, I'm actually going to go to one of my surveys because I've got data on there, and I'm going to show you how to download that. So you've run your survey, you've got loads of responses, and yeah, so this one's got 89 responses, and you want to download your data. So if you just click on your survey, you can see up here we've got various bits and pieces. But if you just go to data and analysis, like so, you can then download your data. There are data analysis in Qualtrics. I've never really used them. I generally download my data either to Excel or to straight to SPSS. Okay. In order to do that, you go to export, just here, export data, and then just go along to SPSS and click download. And then it will download you an SPSS sheet that you can just open straight in SPSS, and you can do your data analysis. There is obviously other options here. Excel, you've got two choices here. You've got either the numeric values. So for example, Qualtrics actually converts data, you know, when you've put strongly agree, agree, disagree, etc., it converts it into numbers. So if you want to actually see the words strongly agree, disagree, etc. in Excel, make sure you select use choice text. But like I say, SPSS is probably the one you're going to download it into. And that includes like all the coding and stuff like that and the categories. The only thing I would say, it sometimes gets the data type wrong. So where it's got like nominal, scale, etc., etc., just an ordinal, make sure you check that in SPSS to make sure that is correct. So that pretty much concludes, and I get this is a lot to take in, and you aren't going to know this instantly, and that's okay. Okay, please do refer to our Sonar, sorry, not Sonar, our Canvas site, because this has got some really, really nice information on it. You've got information about Sonar here and a step-by-step guide how to load things, how to add studies, and you've also got a guide for Qualtrics there. I will put up this training there, okay, and just, you know, take it step by step. You know, don't rush it and expect to get some things wrong, and that's cool. The other thing I really recommend with Qualtrics is you can have as many projects as you want. So you could just create a project to play around with. So just create a project. I like to call it like sandpit, get started. And you can just add loads of random questions, you know, whatever you fancy. Constant sum, I don't even know what kind of question that is. You know, oh look, it adds up to 100 or something along those lines. Just have a little play around with it and take it from there. Now, I've got 5 minutes. Are there any burning questions or anything that you think would be relevant to everyone? I get some of you may have more complex projects and you might need specific help, but you can request specific help via the Psychology Tech email address. So any questions? It's nice to see you back, Steph. Okay, cool. Oh. Okay. What if I want to do surveys that have to be filled out in different days? So you can have multi-part surveys. Can you have multi-part surveys on Sonar, Steph? I'm just going to have a quick look on add. It may be really important for you.
I think they added that option fairly recently for multi-part online studies. There.
Yes. Yeah. So you've got multi-part online studies that are scheduled to take place at specified number of days apart. Now, if you're using external people, Lara, you're probably need to keep in mind how you're going to track those. So if you are using people who are not going to use Sona, then you may want to include in your ethics application that you're going to take some kind of emails to contact them. You can only do that if you've put that in your ethics. And if you are going to take emails, you can create something called a contact list. So you just go to, as you can see here, I've got lots of contact lists. It's how we do ethics. You can create a contact list of all your participants, and then you can schedule to distribute surveys. So if I show you here, once you've got a contact, you can go to distributions and you can go to emails and you can compose an email and you can select your contact list. So you could select the entire contact list to send it out, and you can schedule on different days when you want them to be emailed, and they will get a unique link. So you'll be able to link the different surveys on different days, because that's your real challenge, Lara, that you can't really use an anonymous survey link if you want people to respond multiple times, and you need to know whose those surveys are. So that's something you need to talk to your supervisor about, really, about collecting some kind of identifying information. Okay, does that kind of answer your question there? Cool. Rosie, yes, the survey automatically saves as you go along, as long as you've got an active internet connection. So just keep in mind, just make sure your internet is connected. Otherwise you could lose what you're doing. So if you've got dodgy Wi-Fi, before you close your web browser, do make sure you do you know what I mean, like that your computer is actually connected, and it will automatically save and go along. There is no save option. Okay. Publish is the closest thing to save. So if you've made some changes, you can click publish to make sure it's saved. And if you have got any dodgy internet issues, then it will tell you there and then. Okay. I see a lot of people have got 12 credits. Steph, we might need to do a credit run, like an automated credit run, because I'm going to put my hand up and say I can't remember whether I actually automatically did that. So we might need to run that. Sorry if you can hear my phone ringing. My car's in the garage and I think it's just been finished. Any other questions before we sort of end what we're doing here? I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Cool. Yeah, no problem. Awesome. Thank you guys for coming. And like I say, always have a crack at it first. If you have a crack and you can't figure it out, just give us a shout. It's always better for us if you've actually had a go at it. It doesn't matter how good a go at it or how bad a go at it is, that it is more about having a go first and having a play with it. And don't worry if it doesn't work first time. Okay. Thank you all. I'm going to stop the recording now and let you go. And I need a drink because I've been talking for like 2 hours. So take care, guys.